Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to Business Incorporated, coming to you live from Lagos. I'm Chinize Obi Iwago. And coming up, Egyptian president warns of tough measures to turn the country's ailing economy around. And Kenya plans to offer 5 treasury bonds for sale in the first quarter of its 2016-2017 fiscal year. And in South Africa, the rand edge is weaker in early trade, with traders taking a cautious stance ahead of local government elections on Wednesday. We'll begin in North Africa, Egypt precisely, where the President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has warned the citizens that tough measures would be needed to turn the country's ailing economy around. The warning comes as the government negotiates a $12 billion loan program with the International Monetary Fund.
To prepare public opinion for a series of measures that will include subsidy cuts, tax reforms and privatization of state-owned companies, the president told Egyptians that the government needed their support to weather the storms.
I am talking about issues such as the subsidy issue or the problems facing our economy. The challenge is whether we as a society and our public opinion are prepared or have been given the appropriate amount of information in order to deal with and accept these measures, which could sometimes be tough.
Egypt said last week that it was seeking $4 billion a year over 3 years from the IMF to help plug a funding gap. The government hopes to finalize the deal in August. Sisi's government has been at pains to avoid a public backlash by showing that reforms are homegrown and not imposed from outside. Import-dependent Egypt has faced a dollar shortage since the 2011 uprising that ended Hosni Mubarak's 30-year rule, but also scared off tourists and foreign investors. All this were key sources of hard currency.
In all honesty, the dollar in the past 5 years has become a commodity in Egypt. People decided to keep their dollars at home because they knew that its price would fluctuate, so it will be safer at home. When this idea is formed in people's conscious minds over a period of 5 years, I can tell you that the number of dollars which people have in their homes is unimaginable. In such cases, the government needs to make decisions that will end the commodification of the dollar. This is the challenge.
The gap between the Egyptian pound's official and black market exchange rates have widened to more than 40%, although news of the loan has underpinned the local currency. 4 traders in the black market said their volumes of business had fallen as people wait to find out more details about the IMF loan program and a possible devaluation of the Egyptian pound.
In South Africa, the rand edged weaker early, with traders taking a cautious stance, keeping volumes low ahead of local government elections on Wednesday. In early trade, the rand was 0.22% weaker at 13.95 per dollar, little change from its overnight close of 13.91. Increased dollar demand could pressure rand towards 14.00 psychological mark. Traders see limited moves ahead of local elections on Wednesday and U.S. non-farm payrolls on Friday. In Kenya, the use of expanded polystyrene panels is being promoted as a cheap and environmentally friendly way to help plug a growing housing deficit. Industry experts say demand for housing is at over 200,000 units a year in a country where developers only manage to supply less than half that number.
It looks like any other double-story house in Kenya's capital, Nairobi, but it's made of a light cellular plastic known as polystyrene, a substance many people identify as styrofoam, which is used for making things like disposable coffee cups and packaging. This relatively new construction technology is gaining a foothold in Kenya's fast-expanding housing sector.
If you construct using the polystyrene, you will realize cost savings as a contractor. You'll also be impacting the environment a lot less because you're using pre-manufactured panels. So all in all, it's good for your pocket and it's good for the environment. That's a winning combination.
Expanded polystyrene panels for building are made from a byproduct of oil refining, which consists of mini spherical particles containing about 98% air.
You're talking about polystyrene, people are seeing this white stuff. At the end of the day, when you look at the house, it is the same as any other building. You'd not be able to see a panel house and distinguish it from a distance, because as far as the looks are concerned, the paint is concerned, the cladding that you use is the same as when you're using a stone house.
Experts say polystyrene is ecologically friendly as it uses very little water, and that its most important green benefit is that it's very light, meaning less wood is needed to support the building, and that could help reduce deforestation. A standard two-bedroom polystyrene house costs about $6,700, while one made of bricks can cost twice as much. The difference is mainly due to lower labor costs, as polystyrene is easier to move around and put in place. But the technology is yet to be fully embraced by homeowners, tenants and other housing developers who remain skeptical about the strength of the panels. Industry experts say Kenya has a demand of more than 200,000 housing units per year, but only manages to supply 50,000. State-owned National Housing Corporation set up an EPS panel factory just outside Nairobi 8 years ago, which they say produces more than 460,000 square meters of construction material annually. The agency says it plans to roll out 150,000 panel houses every year.
Kenya's housing demand is growing by the day, and I think from the last statistics that we have been able to have access to, shows we have a deficit of about 200,000 houses every year. And if you take it that way, then it means there's a growing a deficit every year, and it gets bigger by the day.
The houses, while cheaper, are still not considered affordable for the majority of poor people.
Meanwhile, Kenya plans to offer 5 treasury bonds for sale in the first quarter of its 2016-2017 fiscal year, with tenures ranging from 2 years to 15 years. The Finance Ministry said it had shifted to publishing a quarterly rather than monthly issuance calendar as part of reforms meant to increase liquidity, deepen the bond market and reduce interest rate spreads. In the past decade, the East African nation has attracted more investors into its debt market, including foreigners hunting higher yields. But it has been criticized for lack of transparency and for bungling the timing of some debt sales, causing interest rates to spike as they did in the second half of 2015. And here in Nigeria, chef and blogger Ozos Sokar is creating upscale West African food by turning traditional Nigerian recipes into fine dining. Ozos is part of a new generation of chefs who are pushing the boundaries of African cuisine.
Chef Uzo Orimalade left her high-profile corporate job to pursue her passion for food. She set up Uzo's Food Labs, where she grows her own herbs and vegetables. One of her clients is another chef, Ozos Soko. Both women are slowly revolutionizing Nigerian cooking. Uzo started an initiative called Garden to Table Nigeria, which encourages organic and environmentally friendly farming. She grows tomatoes, eggplants, peppers, cucumber, ginger, and other vegetables and herbs, some of which are not indigenous to Nigeria. Under the Monica Kitchen Butterfly, Ozos runs a blog where she experiments with local recipes in what she calls the new Nigerian kitchen.
The new Nigerian kitchen that we see a lot of now, that's championed by somebody that I really, really like, Ozos, integrates other elements from other cuisines into our Nigerian food. So by having a garden like this with things like basil and lime basil and the foreign eggplant, we can integrate that into Nigerian foods and it will be seamless. And I think that that's actually the key to opening Nigerian food up to the international palate. A lot of the problem, I think, has been the presentation of Nigerian food and the conkness, which isn't necessarily bad. But let's face it, you need to water things down or make Nigerian food a little more acceptable to the palates of foreigners, and by doing that you can just integrate some things that they're familiar with and then it almost seems like it now goes from Nigerian food to world cuisine.
Today, Ozos is preparing a meal for a group of friends in her home in Lagos. The chef says she transforms Nigerian meals into delightful culinary adventures.